The galaxy expected fire. They expected thunder, fleets, and blood. When the Galactic Peace Summit was announced, the great empires came with their warships waiting in orbit. Armies were placed on standby, hidden behind the veil of diplomacy. Everyone knew what the summit really meant. It was a trap, a stage for intimidation. The strongest empire would roar, the weakest would kneel, and peace would be written in fear. But then, the humans arrived. It began with silence. Their ship was small compared to the others, almost humble, gliding into the docking bay of the council station. The guards laughed at first. No massive fleet, no giant cannons, no squads of armored soldiers. Just one ship, and only a handful of humans walking out of it. The delegates of other species whispered. The humans were still considered newcomers in the galactic stage, rough and unpredictable. They were not trusted, not yet feared. Many believed they would fail, that they would be swallowed whole by the politics of older empires. Yet there was something strange in the way the humans walked into the chamber. Calm. Slow. Their faces unreadable, as if they knew something no one else knew. The first voice to break the silence belonged to the Zurak Dominion. Their ambassador slammed his clawed hand against the table and hissed. "You come here with no weapons? No fleet at your back? You insult us all with this weakness." The chamber rumbled with laughter from other species. The Zurak were feared conquerors, their fleets spanning 100 systems. Their word alone was enough to bend nations. But the human did not flinch. The one in front, tall, with gray in his hair, simply looked at the Zurak with steady eyes. His voice, when it came, was soft but carried through the chamber. "We brought no weapons, because we do not need them." That sentence froze the room. The words were not shouted. They were not backed by threat or arrogance. But the confidence inside them was sharper than any blade. The Zurak narrowed his eyes. "Empty words. Words build empires," the human replied, stepping closer. "Words start wars. Words end them. Today, you all came expecting to fight with fleets and soldiers. But humanity has brought something far more dangerous." He paused. Every ear turned toward him. Truth. The council erupted in noise. Some shouted mockery, some hissed threats, some laughed in disbelief. Yet others leaned forward, watching closely. Because hidden inside those simple words was something unsettling. The humans had done their homework. They knew the cracks inside the great empires, the betrayals hidden, the corruption ignored, the wars started for pride, not survival. And one by one, over the course of hours, they began to speak. They spoke of the Zurak's secret slave worlds, where entire populations were chained in silence. They spoke of the Vayari Syndicate's trade deals, how they poisoned weaker planets with false promises. They spoke of the Council itself, how it had let wars rage unchecked, as long as tribute kept flowing. Every word hit like a blade cutting deeper. And as the humans spoke, the chamber grew colder. Those who laughed at the beginning stopped laughing. Those who hissed threats no longer interrupted. Even the Zurak, proud and loud, sat back in silence as the human revealed truths that no one had dared to speak aloud. The summit was supposed to end in fear of the strongest fleet. Instead, it was drowning in shame. The humans used no warships, no armies, no weapons. They used knowledge. They used words like fire, burning away lies, exposing the rot inside the empires. For the first time in galactic history, silence fell not because of fear of cannons, but because of respect. Still, respect and fear are brothers. And in the shadows of the chamber, many eyes began to see humanity differently. If this species could conquer the Council without a single weapon, what else could they do if they chose to? The summit ended with no blood spilled, no fleets unleashed. But something far greater had been planted. Suspicion, fear, curiosity. And when the humans left the chamber, walking out as calmly as they had entered, the galaxy was no longer laughing. Because a terrifying thought lingered in every mind. If humans could conquer with words, what would happen when they decided to use their weapons? The summit had ended, But the galaxy did not sleep. Rumors spread faster than light. From the cold asteroid colonies of the Veari to the crystal cities of the Olinth, one name was whispered again and again. Humans. Delegates replayed the words they had heard. Soldiers muttered about the quiet power of that strange species. Traders whispered in their markets, and even pirates in the farthest belts spoke of them. Everyone asked the same question. How could a young, untested race bring the greatest empires to silence? The Zurak Dominion did not take it well. Their pride had been wounded before the council. For the Zurak, shame was worse than death. Their fleets moved restlessly, and their leaders sharpened their claws. The Dominion wanted revenge. And yet, they hesitated. That hesitation spread fear even faster than warships could. The Zurak never hesitated, never waited. But now, they did. Because behind the humans' calm words, something had unsettled even them. The human delegation had returned to their ship in silence, showing no victory, no celebration. They did not smile. They did not boast. It was as if they had not conquered anyone at all. But the galaxy knew otherwise. Inside the human ship, the delegates gathered. Their leader, the gray-haired man who had spoken before the council, sat with his team. His name was Ambassador Kieran Holt. He was not a soldier, not a general. He had never commanded a fleet. But his weapon was sharper than any blade. Knowledge. He leaned back in his chair, his voice calm. They will come for us. Not today, not tomorrow. But the Zurak will not forget. None of them will. One of his aides frowned. Then we should prepare fleets. We should call Earth. We should. Holt raised a hand, silencing him. That is exactly what they expect. They want us to answer with ships, with fire, with fear. But we will not. We will fight on ground they do not understand. The others exchanged uneasy looks. Most of them were younger, new to this galactic stage. But they trusted him. Humans had survived not by having the strongest weapons, but by being unpredictable. Meanwhile, far from the human ship, the council was in chaos. Old alliances shook. Smaller species, long crushed under the boots of empires, began to whisper hope. They had seen the Zurak silenced by words. They had seen corruption revealed. And for the first time in generations, they wondered if things could change. But not everyone welcomed change. In the dark halls of the Dominion flagship, the Zurak warlord snarled. His claws scraped across the table as he leaned over a glowing map of the stars. Humans, he hissed, the word dripping like venom. They think themselves clever. They think words will save them. But words cannot stop fire. His generals bowed their heads, waiting for his command. Send the fleets. The warlord growled. Find their colonies. Burn their outposts. Make them scream, and let the galaxy see their weakness. But another general, older and scarred, raised his voice cautiously. Warlord, if they have such knowledge of us, perhaps they also know our fleets. Perhaps they are prepared. The warlord's eyes glowed with fury. Then let them be prepared. We are Zurak. We do not cower. We do not fear. The decision was made. War was coming. Yet when the Zurak fleets moved, something strange happened. Every strike they planned, every outpost they targeted, was already abandoned. Human supply lines shifted like ghosts, convoys vanished before attacks, and messages intercepted by Zurak spies led only into traps. It was as if the humans already knew every move before it was made. In the Dominion war rooms, frustration turned to rage. Their commanders screamed for answers, but there were none. The humans never fired a shot, yet the Zurak fleets were bleeding fuel, time, and morale. Ambassador Holt watched calmly from afar. He had expected this. Humanity's strength was not just in weapons, but in something the galaxy never valued: patience, planning, and the ability to see the game long before it began. Still, he knew the Zurak would not stop. They were too proud. Pride made them predictable. and predictable enemies were the easiest to destroy. But Holt also knew something else. Humanity's greatest challenge was not the Zurak. It was the Council itself. Because now, every empire feared them. Some admired them. Some wanted to join them. And others wanted them erased before they grew too strong. The galaxy had been changed by words alone. And in the shadows of that change, war was waiting. The Zurak fleets burned across the stars. World after world fell silent as their warships passed, their claws closing around anything that smelled of human influence. Colonies were searched, stations destroyed, trade routes cut apart. Yet every time they reached for the humans, they found nothing. No armies. No fleets. No resistance. It was as if the humans had vanished into shadows, always one step ahead. On the Council station, the other species watched with unease. Many had hoped the Zurak would crush the humans quickly, restoring the order they all understood, strength through fear. But instead, the Zurak looked clumsy, chasing ghosts, wasting fuel, wasting time. And everywhere, whispers spread. Perhaps the humans were not weak. Perhaps they were something worse. Patient. Ambassador Holt knew the danger. In the quiet war room of the human ship, he spoke to his aides in the same calm voice that had silenced the Council. The Zurak are striking blind. But blind animals are still dangerous. They will lash out at anyone near them. That is where opportunity lies. He turned to a display of star maps. Dozens of systems lit up, slave worlds, hidden prisons, colonies taken by force. They think fear is their weapon. We will take it from them. The humans had no great fleet to rival the Zurak. But they had something the galaxy did not expect: alliances in the shadows. Small species, long crushed, had quietly begun reaching out to the humans. Not openly. Not with flags or declarations. But with information. Secrets. Hope. And humanity listened. Soon, strange things began to happen across the galaxy. On a Zurak-controlled mining world, the slaves rose in rebellion, not with weapons, but with planning. Their overseers fell before they even realized the uprising had begun. On a hidden prison moon, gates opened in the night, and thousands fled into waiting transports that no Zurak sensors detected. On a trade route, a Zurak convoy disappeared. Not destroyed, not attacked. It simply vanished. Every act struck at the Zurak's pride. Every failure was whispered across the stars. The warlord raged inside his throne chamber. His claws cut into steel as he roared at his generals. Where are the humans? Where are they hiding? But no one could answer. One general, trembling, finally spoke. Warlord, perhaps they are not fighting alone. Perhaps the smaller races. The warlord silenced him with a strike of his claws. Lies. No one defies the Zurak. No one. Yet even as he shouted, the galaxy was changing. The weak had found a voice. And that voice was echoing through the words of humanity. Ambassador Holt stood before his team once more. His gray eyes were calm, but inside, he knew the risk. The Zurak are proud. They cannot allow their image to break. If enough worlds slip from their control, they will not hesitate. They will unleash everything. His aide swallowed. And then, Holt's gaze turned cold. Then, for the first time, humanity may need to answer not with words, but with fire. The thought hung heavy. For weeks, humanity had fought without firing a single weapon. They had moved like shadows, pulling strings, unraveling the Zurak without ever standing in front of them. But the galaxy was not blind. Other empires were watching closely, waiting to see how far the humans would go. And some were beginning to fear that if the humans truly chose war, nothing could stop them. The Zurak warlord gave his order at last. No more hunting shadows. No more wasting time. Strike Earth. Burn it. Let every human world see what happens to those who shame us. The chamber fell silent. Even his generals hesitated. Attacking Earth directly meant total war. But the warlord's pride was stronger than his reason. His voice thundered once more. If humanity believes words can save them, then let us show them fire that burns louder than words ever could. Far across the stars, Ambassador Holt felt the storm coming. He stood by the viewport of his ship, staring at the endless black. The reflection of the stars burned in his tired eyes. He whispered, almost to himself, "They think Earth is unprepared. They think we are still young. Let them come." Behind him, one of his aides asked softly, "Do you believe we can survive this?" Holt's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Survive? My friend. Humanity has not even begun to fight." And somewhere, deep within the dark arms of the galaxy, human warships that no one believed existed began to awaken. The Zurak fleets gathered like storm clouds. Hundreds of warships, their hulls sharp and dark, burned toward one target, Earth. For generations, the Zurak had ruled by fear. They had crushed rebellions, burned planets, and silenced entire systems. And now, before the whole galaxy, they would prove their power again. Inside the council halls, whispers turned into panic. Some ambassadors begged for caution, warning that attacking Earth could start a war no one could stop. Others demanded silence, afraid to speak against the Dominion. But no one could deny it. The Zurak had made their choice. Humanity would be tested in fire. On Earth, the skies were calm. Cities glowed under the night, oceans rolled without care, and the people went about their lives. To them, the galaxy still felt distant. Only a few truly understood the danger drawing closer with every hour. Ambassador Holt stood inside Earth's Defense Command, staring at the long table where generals and leaders gathered. His face was calm, but his words cut through the room. "The Zurak believe we are unprepared. That is their mistake. We must show them why humanity has survived every threat in our history." A general leaned forward, his voice hard. "Do we fight them openly? Reveal the fleet." For a moment, silence. Then Holt shook his head. "Not yet. If we reveal everything now, the galaxy will unite against us. We must let the Zurak strike first, and fail." The room shifted with unease. To wait, to allow the enemy to come, was dangerous. But Holt's calm eyes carried weight. He had faced the council with nothing but words and won. Now he asked for patience again. And so humanity waited. The Zurak armada tore through the edge of Sol, their ships blocking out the stars. To them, Earth was just another target. Another example to set. The warlord stood tall on his command bridge, his claws tapping against the metal as he growled. "Prepare the fire. Let Earth burn." But when the Zurak ships moved into range, something unexpected happened. The skies around Earth shimmered. Invisible lines of light flickered across space, and then a vast shield unfolded, wrapping the planet in a glowing barrier. Zurak cannons fired. Blasts of fire struck the shield and spread like waves on water. The glow trembled, but did not break. The warlord's eyes widened. Impossible. The humans had built defenses the galaxy did not know existed. Not massive fleets, not giant cannons, but walls of light strong enough to block the Zurak's fury. On Earth, cheers erupted as the shield held. But inside Defense Command, Ambassador Holt raised a hand. "Do not cheer too early. They will push harder. And we cannot hold forever." He was right. The Zurak warships poured more fire, their combined weapons pounding the shield again and again. Cracks of light spread across its surface. The ground shook, cities trembled. People on Earth looked up at the sky and saw fire raining down, wondering how long the shield would last. In orbit, smaller human defense ships darted out like wolves, striking at isolated Zurak vessels. They fought with precision, not power, crippling engines, blinding sensors, vanishing before the main fleet could strike back. The Zurak roared in frustration. This was not the easy victory they had promised the galaxy. On the command bridge of the human flagship, a young officer turned to Ambassador Holt. "Sir, the shield cannot last. What are your orders?" Holt's gaze was steady, his voice calm. "Then it is time." The officer hesitated. "Time? For what?" Holt's eyes narrowed. "Time to show them the weapons we never wanted to use." Far beneath Earth's surface, hidden deep in vaults forgotten even by most humans, machines awoke. For centuries, they had slept in silence. Now their eyes burned with fire as they rose, massive warships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The Zurak fleet pressed forward, confident the shield would soon fail. But then, the darkness of space split open. One by one, human warships emerged. Their hulls glowed with power, their weapons humming with energy that made even the Zurak hesitate. The galaxy had believed Earth weak. The Zurak had believed Earth unprepared. But now, the truth stood revealed. These ships. Ambassador Holt, watching from Earth's command center, finally allowed himself the faintest smile. "They are our answer." And as the human fleet spread its wings across the stars, the balance of power in the galaxy began to shift. The galaxy held its breath. Earth's shield glowed in the darkness of space, cracked but unbroken. The Zurak fleet surrounded it like wolves around wounded prey. And then, from the shadows, the human warships emerged. They were not countless. Only a fraction compared to the Zurak armada. But their design was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their hulls were black and silver, built for speed and power. Their weapons shone with an energy that made even Zurak captains hesitate. Every ship moved with precision, like pieces of a game already decided. Ambassador Holt's voice echoed through Defense Command. "Now they will learn." Words broke their pride. Fire will break their fear. The first human ship moved forward. It was smaller than the Zurak destroyers, almost fragile in comparison. The warlord sneered on his bridge. "Crush it. Show them their weakness." Zurak cannons roared, fire lashing out across the void. But the human ship twisted, its engines flaring with sudden bursts. The Zurak fire missed, scattering harmlessly into the dark. And then the human ship answered. One strike. A single beam of focused light cut through the nearest Zurak destroyer. The massive ship split apart in silence, drifting into pieces before its crew even screamed. The council, watching from afar, went silent. In seconds, everything had changed. Human ships darted between the Zurak lines, striking with surgical precision. They did not waste fire. Every shot crippled engines, destroyed command bridges, or tore weapons apart. The Zurak armada, proud and countless, stumbled like a giant blinded. But they were still many. The warlord snarled, his claws digging into steel. "Surround them. Tear them apart. Drown them in fire." Zurak ships closed in, dozens against one. Human ships moved fast, but the Zurak were relentless. Fire filled the skies above Earth. The shield trembled again, threatening to collapse. On Earth, people prayed. They looked up at the burning skies, their hope balancing on the edge of survival. Inside his command center, Holt remained calm. "They want us to fight them ship for ship. We will not play their game." He turned to his aides. "Release the Sentinels." Far below, from hidden platforms around Earth's orbit, massive constructs rose. They were not warships but guardians, towers of metal armed with long-range cannons. Together, they formed a second wall of defense around the planet. The Zurak, focused on the fleet, never saw them rise until they fired. Beams of pure energy cut across the battlefield, striking through lines of Zurak ships. Dozens exploded in sudden fire. The warlord roared in disbelief. "This is not possible. No one hides such power." But humanity had. They had hidden it for generations, building in silence, waiting for the day the galaxy would test them. Still, the Zurak did not retreat. Pride chained them to battle. Their ships surged forward, throwing everything they had at Earth's defenders. And for the first time, the human fleet began to bleed. One of their ships, caught between three Zurak cruisers, took heavy fire. Its hull cracked, flames bursting as its engines failed. A desperate cry echoed across comms before the ship tore apart in silence. Ambassador Holt closed his eyes for a moment. His calm never wavered, but his heart carried the weight. Every life is a cost. But if Earth falls, all is lost. The battle raged on. Hours passed like seconds. The Zurak lost hundreds, but still they came. Humanity fought with precision, but their numbers were few. And then, when it seemed balance might tip, the warlord gave a final order. Bring in the dreadnought. From the darkness, a ship larger than mountains emerged. Its shadow covered the stars, its weapons glowing with death. The Zurak fleet roared as their ultimate weapon entered the fight. Ambassador Holt's aides stared in horror. No shield can hold against that. No fleet can match it. Holt's gaze never left the stars. His voice was low, steady. Then it is time to show them what we swore never to reveal. Beneath Earth's surface, deeper than the hidden vaults, something stirred. Machines older than the Council itself. Engines built in secret, powered by fury and fear of the galaxy's future. For centuries, they had been silent. Now they woke. The ground trembled across Earth. Oceans shifted as something vast rose from beneath. And then, breaking free from the planet's shadow, a single warship emerged. It was not like the others. Larger, darker, and older. Its very shape seemed wrong, as if built for a war the galaxy had forgotten. The Zurak dreadnought paused. Even the warlord's claws froze midair as he stared at the monster rising from Earth itself. Holt whispered, almost to himself. The Ark has awakened. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Zurak dreadnought hung in space like a mountain of death. Its cannons glowed red, each one capable of vaporizing entire cities. The warlord's claws tapped nervously on his command bridge, his pride warring with disbelief. And then, the Ark moved. From Earth's orbit, the massive human warship rose. Its hull was black with silver edges, engraved with patterns that seemed older than time. Energy thrummed across its surface. The dreadnought's sensors blinked rapidly, trying to analyze the impossible. Ambassador Holt watched the viewports, calm as always. Do not underestimate it. Every move counts. The galaxy will watch us today, but our fight is not for them. It is for Earth. The Ark fired first. A single beam lanced across the void, faster than light. It struck the dreadnought's shields with a sound no one could hear but every eye could feel. The shield shuddered, sparks dancing across its surface. Then came the second beam, and the third. The dreadnought staggered as systems overloaded. Its massive guns fired blindly, but the Ark twisted and darted with impossible speed. Shots that would have destroyed lesser ships bounced harmlessly off its hull. For the first time in his life, the warlord realized something terrifying. This was not a battle humans could lose. The Zurak fleets roared, desperate to save their mountain of metal, but the Ark moved like a phantom. It was everywhere at once, striking with precision. One by one, the dreadnought's turrets collapsed. Engines flared, compartments erupted, and crew screams echoed across comms, until silence swallowed them. The warlord slammed his claws on the table. Impossible! How can one ship destroy all this? Holt's voice, calm and steady, answered him across the void. Because this is not just a ship. This is humanity's judgment. The Ark unleashed its secret. Hidden inside its hull, massive energy projectors fired. They did not shoot weapons of war. They projected illusions, holograms of entire fleets, dozens of warships appearing out of nowhere. The Zurak hesitated, unable to distinguish the real from the fake. Missiles fired at shadows, energy wasted chasing ghosts, and confusion spread like wildfire. The dreadnought, blinded by illusions and attacks, staggered. Then the Ark struck with finality. Its main beam, concentrated to unimaginable power, sliced through the dreadnought's hull. The massive ship split in half, drifting in silence as fire spread along its broken body. The Zurak warlord's roar echoed across comms, his fury unmatched. Retreat. Retreat. But retreat was a new concept for the fleet. The human fleet, smaller but faster, struck again and again. The Zurak were driven back, unable to regroup, unable to fight the speed and precision of humanity. Holt turned to his aides. "Prepare the message." One of them frowned. "Message? They are defeated. Do we need to speak?" Holt's eyes gleamed. "Yes. Let every empire know. Let them see the cost of arrogance. The galaxy must understand, humanity does not fight for power. We fight for survival, for truth, for the right to exist." The human ships faded into the void once more, their strikes complete. The Zurak fleet, broken and humiliated, retreated toward their systems, dragging the shattered remnants of the dreadnought behind them. On Earth, people watched as the sky cleared. The shield remained intact. No human lives were lost in battle above their cities. The people cheered, but Holt's expression remained calm. There was still work to be done. He knew the galaxy had changed. Respect, fear, curiosity, these were the new tools. Not weapons. Not armies. Words and strategy had built the greatest victory. The council sent envoys, their faces pale. Silence fell in every chamber. No species could move without remembering the power that had just revealed itself. And somewhere, deep in space, survivors of the Zurak fleet whispered the same question, terrified. What else do the humans have that we do not know? Holt returned to the Ark's bridge. His team watched him quietly. The battle was over, but the war for the galaxy's respect had only begun. He looked at the stars, calm as ever. The galaxy now knows. We did not need warships to make them listen. But if they push, if they threaten, we are ready. And we will not be stopped. For humanity, victory was never about destruction. It was about survival. About showing that even against empires older and stronger, the courage, intelligence, and patience of one species could tip the scales of the galaxy. And in the silent void, the Ark glowed, a reminder that humans were not to be underestimated. The galaxy would remember this day forever. The Zurak had retreated. For the first time in history, their pride was broken. Their fleets limped back to their systems, battered and humiliated. The warlord, once proud and unshakable, sat in silence on his command bridge, staring at the void. The galaxy had witnessed a new power, humans. On Earth, people celebrated quietly. The shield still glowed faintly in orbit, a reminder that their planet had survived the greatest armada the galaxy could send. But Ambassador Holt knew the victory was more than physical. It was something deeper. He walked through Defense Command, observing the faces of his team. They were exhausted, but their eyes burned with pride. They had fought not with sheer numbers, not with fear, but with strategy, patience, and knowledge. The galaxy had underestimated them, and now it would never do so again. Holt addressed the council. His voice echoed through every chamber, calm but commanding. The battle is over. No human lives were lost. No cities destroyed. Yet, your fleets were shattered, your pride broken. Humanity did not fight to conquer. We fought to survive and to show that words, planning, and patience can outweigh sheer force. The council members stared in silence. Some felt relief. Others, fear. Even the strongest species realized that the humans were not a young race to bully. They were a force unlike any other, clever, patient, and unpredictable. Across the galaxy, smaller species watched in awe. Systems once silenced by fear began to speak freely again. Traders reopened old routes. Colonies sent envoys. The balance of power had shifted without a single planet being lost. In the Zurak Empire, anger and shame boiled. The warlord knew his people had been defeated not by weapons, but by strategy and intelligence. Pride was a double-edged blade, and it had cut him deeply. Meanwhile, humanity did not celebrate with pomp or war parades. They returned to their planets, to their colonies, to their lives. They rebuilt what was needed, repaired the infrastructure, and prepared quietly for the future. Victory, for them, was not glory, it was survival and respect. Holt stood on Earth's observation deck, looking out at the stars. His voice was quiet, but firm. The galaxy has learned something important. Power is not always in numbers. Strength is not always in fleets. Humanity survived because we planned, because we listened, and because we understood our enemy better than they understood themselves. A young aide stepped forward. But sir, what happens if they come back? Holt smiled faintly. Then we will be ready. Not because we have more weapons, but because we are prepared to think, to adapt, and to fight smarter than anyone else. That is humanity's true weapon. The galaxy would remember this day forever. Peace was restored, but it was a new kind of peace. One built on respect, not fear. One built on intelligence, not intimidation. For decades, stories would spread of the small human fleet that crushed a mighty armada. Of how words and strategy toppled empires. Of how the Ark rose from the shadows to defend Earth. And always, in those stories, there would be a single lesson: never underestimate humanity. Some empires, humbled by defeat, sought alliances with Earth. Others watched silently, cautious now, knowing that any threat to humanity would come with consequences they could not foresee. On Earth, life returned to normal. Children played under the sun, unaware of the wars their planet had survived. Farmers tilled the soil, workers built cities, and leaders planned for the future. The galaxy had changed, but the people of Earth had survived, as they always had. Holt walked along the shores of a quiet lake, the sun reflecting off the water. He thought of the Council, the Zurak, and every star system that had witnessed humanity's rise. We do not fight for glory, he whispered to himself. We fight because we must. And when we fight, we win, not by fire alone, but by the mind and the heart. The stars above shimmered, endless and silent. Somewhere in the void, remnants of the Zurak fleets nursed their wounds, plotting, learning, fearing. But Earth was safe. Humanity had not only survived, they had proven themselves to the galaxy. And in that proof, a message was sent across every system. Humans were no longer a species to be ignored, no longer a people to underestimate. They were the unexpected force that the galaxy would never forget. The battle was over. The war for respect had begun.